Hi, welcome to Tales from the Story Hat. I'm Elaine Weishuttle, a children's librarian at the Milton Public Library, and I've been telling stories for a long time. I brought along my story hat. It's got a lot of things on it to remind me of different stories to tell. There's an owl on here, and there's an owl that figures in one of the stories that I'm going to share with you today. I picked this story, actually, I think I've told it before, but I wanted to share it again because I really love this story. And April is the perfect month for it because it's a story that takes place in April. You know, we have a holiday coming up, Patriots' Day, which is celebrated in Massachusetts and Maine. And, you'll hear a lot about it in school, I'm sure, and they'll tell you about Paul Revere's ride and the battles of Lexington and Concord that sort of started off the war for American independence, what we call the Revolution. Well, Paul Revere wasn't the only one who made a famous ride during that war. The story I want to tell you today is about a girl named Sybil Luddington, and she was about 16 years old at the time this story takes place. And it was another April, but this one, rather than being in 1775, was in 1777. Sybil lived on a farm in New York Territory, then the colony of New York, which became New York State, not far from the border with the Connecticut colony and not too far from Danbury, Connecticut. Her father had a militia. Now, militias were groups of patriots who came together to do battle with the British or whatever other fights needed to be done. And her father had been away from home for several weeks. He had been out gathering supplies to take to the town of Danbury to store there for George Washington's army. They'd been collecting food, they'd been collecting weapons, they'd been collecting cannon, they'd been collecting ammunition. They'd even been collecting clothing. Soldiers needed boots, and soldiers needed warm clothes to wear. So her father had been away from home for quite a while, but he'd sent word that he would be home soon. While he had been away, Sybil had spent time training her new horse, a beautiful young horse named Star. And she was just so anxious to show her father how much progress she had made training this horse. Well, her father arrived, and Sybil was telling him how much she had done with Star. And while they were sitting around the table eating, the rain began, and it was a pouring rain. It beat down on the roof. It beat down around the house, created quite a noise. But through the noise, they heard the sound of hoofbeats coming closer, rapidly. And suddenly, they stopped, and there was a pounding on the door. Her father opened the door to find standing, soaking wet, a messenger who had come from Danbury. And the message he had was that the British soldiers were moving out of Long Island and heading for Danbury. And they needed to raise the militias and get there quickly, or the British might get all of the supplies that they had just stored in Danbury. Sybil's father immediately knew he had to send someone to rouse all of the members of his militia from all of the neighboring farms. The messenger, however, was exhausted, and his horse was spent. There was no way he would be able to run any further that night. Sybil's father couldn't go because he would need to be there at his farm when the militia began assembling so that he could get them organized and ready to march. Sybil spoke up. "I can go, Father. I know where everyone's home is, and Star can make the run." "Are you sure?" her father asked her. "I'm sure." He was a little bit reluctant to let his daughter go out on a dark, stormy night. What dangers might be there, apart from wild animals? Well, there didn't seem to be any choice. "Okay," he said, "you can go, but stay on the roads. Don't go off the roads. You don't want to risk running into dangers in the woods." Sybil agreed. She ran. She put on a pair of her father's old trousers and then grabbed a heavy cloak and a big floppy hat to put over her head, and she started off, saddled up her horse Star, and rode off into the darkness. She rode and rode and rode through the pouring rain. Soon she came near the first of the farms that belonged to one of the members of her father's militia. She grabbed up a branch from a tree, just a small one, and used it to reach across the porch and bang on the front door of the farmer's house. When he emerged, she said, "The British are marching on Danbury. Muster at Colonel Luddington's farm." "I'll be there," he said, and headed back into the house to get his things and head out. Sybil rode on. She rode past another farm and knocked on the door there and gave her message again. "The militia is needed. Muster at Colonel Luddington's. The British are marching on Danbury." On and on she went, through the night, through the rain. At one point, Star slipped coming to the edge of a shallow stream, and Sybil hopped off and checked his leg to make sure that he hadn't injured himself. She walked him a few paces to make sure that he wasn't favoring that leg, but when he seemed to be sound, she leapt back on his back and darted on again. She went through a small village and stopped at the blacksmith shop to alert him, and at the cooperage where they made barrels and notified him. She even stopped at the tanner's where they worked on the leather and told him, "Muster at Colonel Luddington's." On and on she went. Soon she passed another house. She knew that it wasn't one of the militia houses. She wasn't sure who lived in that house, and just as she came up, the door opened and someone stepped out, and she realized that it was one of the loyalists, one of the ones who favored the British. Quickly, she slipped off Star's back and shooed him off the road a little bit and into the edge of the trees. She put her hand over his mouth and nostrils to keep him quiet. But as she backed him up, he stepped on a branch and it cracked with a loud noise. "Who's there?" cried the farmer. "Who's there? I hear you. Who's there?" And he started out of his house. He came a little bit closer to where Sybil was hiding in the edge of the woods, when suddenly, from the tree above her, she heard an owl hooting. "Hoo-hoo! Hoo-hoo! "Woo-hoo!" "Oh," said the farmer, "just an old owl. No worry there." And he turned and walked back into his house. Sybil waited for a few minutes to make sure he was gone. And then she leapt back up onto Star's back and headed off to contact the final few members of her father's militia. Soon she had reached the end of her ride, and she turned and slowly walked Star back towards home. It took her quite a time to get there. It was almost dawn before she and Star came into the yard and could see the militia assembling and ready to march off. But on the horizon, they could already see the flames from Danbury. The British had already reached Danbury and were busily burning all of the supplies that had been gathered. But the militia marched off anyway to see what they could salvage and what else they could do. And with several other militias that had been raised as well, they managed to drive the British out of Danbury and back onto Long Island and prevent them from going any further. They'd still need to replenish all of their stores, but the British had not been able to take anything from Danbury, like the weapons. They just burned the food and the clothing. And so Sybil's ride helped to prevent the British from making further incursions into the New York colony. It's said that when General Washington came to the farm one day to visit her father, he asked to see Sybil, and he thanked her personally for the courage and bravery she had shown on that midnight ride. In April of 1777, Sybil Ludington, a 6-year-old girl who helped win American independence. The next story that I want to share with you today is a whole different world. In fact, it's from the other side of the world. Next month, May, is Asian and Asian Pacific Islanders Month. And the story that I want to tell you next is the story of the monkey and the crocodile. It is a Jataka tale from India. There once was a monkey who loved mangoes. In fact, he lived in a mango tree where he could just reach out and pluck the fruit whenever he wanted. He was a very happy monkey, and he was always chattering, and he ate so many mangoes that he was quite plump too. The mango tree that he lived in stood on the bank of a river that was full of crocodiles. And all of the monkeys were very careful not to go too near the water, because crocodiles would sometimes even come up on the bank and grab an unwary monkey. Well, there was one crocodile in the river, a young crocodile, who was always hungrier than most crocodiles. And he was determined that he was going to catch himself a monkey one of these days. And he had his eye on a particular monkey, the monkey that we're talking about. I want to catch that monkey, he thought. How am I going to do it? The other older crocodiles told him not to be foolish, but he was determined, and so he planned and planned, and finally he knew what he would do. One afternoon, as the mango tree where our monkey lived was getting kind of sparse of fruit because so many of the mangoes had already been eaten, the crocodile came up on the bank and he called out to the monkey and said, "Ho there! Would you like to go to the other side of the river where there are more mango trees that no one has eaten the fruit of yet?" "Oh," said the monkey, "that sounds quite nice, but I don't swim. How could I get to the other side of the river?" "Oh," said the crocodile, "you could climb on my back, and I would carry you across to the other side of the river." Well, our monkey was a little bit foolish that day, and he thought, riding on his back, that should be safe enough. And he could see the mangoes on the trees across the river, and they did indeed look very ripe and delicious. And so he said, "Okay." And he clambered down from his tree, and he hopped on the back of the crocodile. And the crocodile slid into the water and went swimming along very calmly, and the monkey clung to his back. And then suddenly the crocodile took a deep dive down under the water, carrying the monkey with him. And when he rose up again towards the middle of the river, the poor monkey was half drowned, and he was coughing and sputtering. And he scolded the crocodile, "What did you do that for? You may swim underwater, but I can't breathe under there." And the crocodile said, "I was hoping you would drown, because then I am going to eat you." "Eat me?" said the monkey. "Oh, yes, you look very tasty," said the crocodile. "Oh," said the monkey, thinking quickly, how was he going to get out of this? "Oh, well, if you meant to eat me, you should have told me, and I would have brought my heart with me. The heart is the tastiest part of a monkey. You wouldn't want to eat me without the heart." "Your heart?" said the crocodile. "Where is your heart?" "Oh, well, monkeys, we keep our hearts in the trees where we live, so that they're handy but safe. If you take me back, I'll get my heart, and then you can eat me." "All right," said the crocodile, who was not as smart or clever as he thought he was. He turned around and he swam back, and the monkey hopped off and quickly raced up to the top of his tree, where he plucked an overripe mango and threw it down on the crocodile's nose. "Ha!" he said. "Oh, come back," said the crocodile. "Where you promised you would bring your heart." "I've had my heart in my chest all along," said the monkey. "You're a foolish crocodile to think that I wouldn't have my heart with me." The crocodile was angry now. He knew he had been outwitted, and he swam off angrily. The monkey decided it might be a good time to move, not hang around where the crocodile knew where he was. So he moved on down the riverbank a ways, where he found some more mango trees, and he began to live there, eating the mangoes and swinging through the trees and playing with some of the other monkeys. Meanwhile, the crocodile swam up and down the river looking for him, and finally one day spotted him. Now, this lower stretch of the river, there was a big rock in the middle of it. And with a big leap from a tree, the monkey could just get to the rock. And from there, he could take another big jump and get to the other side of the river. So he was able to get to the mango trees over there. And he started doing that one day. And that was when the crocodile spotted him. "Ah," said the crocodile. He goes over and he spends the day, and then he comes back. Okay, tomorrow he'll go to the other side, and I will catch him as he's coming back. And the crocodile waited submerged in the water, watching as the monkey leapt to the rock and then leapt to the bank and played in the trees and ate the mangoes. At night, the crocodile slowly and carefully came up out of the water and draped himself over the top of the rock and waited for the monkey. As the monkey came down towards the riverbank, he thought, the rock looks kind of strange. It looks a little bit bigger than before. I wonder what it is. And so he called out, "Ho, rock, are you ready? I'm about ready to come home myself. How are you?" There was no answer. "Rock, oh, rock, are you listening?" Still no answer. But the crocodile was thinking, he must be expecting an answer. I never heard of a rock talking before, but maybe this is a special rock. I better answer. And so the next time the monkey called, "Oh, rock," the crocodile, in a funny voice, said, "Yes, monkey, I am here. I am waiting for you. Come, jump." And the monkey started laughing. "Crocodile, I can tell that's you. Rocks don't talk." "Oh dear." And then the crocodile said, "I told you I would find you. I told you I would eat you." "Oh goodness," said the monkey. "I guess I'm done for. Why don't you open your mouth wide and I will just jump in and save you the trouble of catching me." "Very well," said the crocodile. Now the monkey knew that when a crocodile opens its mouth very, very wide, it closes its eyes. And so he waited until the crocodile's mouth was wide open, and then he gave a mighty leap and landed on the crocodile's back, not in his mouth, and then from his back took another rapid jump back onto his home shore and scrambled up his tree. "Ah," said the crocodile sadly, "I see I am not as clever as I thought I was, and I am not as clever as this monkey." And he called up to the monkey and he said, "You have outwitted me. I will leave you in peace from now on." "You had better," said the monkey. But being a very clever monkey, he did not take the crocodile at his word, but always kept a careful eye out on the river to make sure that the crocodile would never catch him. And it never did. The Monkey and the Crocodile, a Jataka tale from India.